The cabin of the starbound 747 felt less like an airplane and more like a private vault for the ultra-wealthy. The walls were lined with brushed aluminum, and the seats were upholstered in a leather so soft it felt like velvet. Killian, the chief pilot, walked through the first-class cabin with the stride of a man who believed the laws of gravity, and the laws of man didn't apply to him once he donned his wings. His bold red tie was a sharp, aggressive slash against his white shirt, and his face carried a permanent bold red flush of self-importance. He didn't see passengers. He saw cargo that paid for his lifestyle. Seated in 1A, the most coveted spot on the aircraft, was Adelaide. She was a picture of quiet power. Dressed in a deep navy structured blazer and a white silk blouse, she had her yellow leather briefcase open on the mahogany tray table. Adelaide wasn't just a passenger. She was a silent architect of the global logistics empire that had recently acquired the struggling airline. She was here on an unannounced audit, her deep navy eyes taking in every detail of the crew's dismissive attitude toward the staff. The friction began when a high-profile socialite, a personal friend of Killian's, boarded the plane late and realized their seat was taken by Adelaide. Killian didn't check the manifest. He simply reacted. "Ma'am, there's been a clerical error. This seat is reserved for a priority AAA guest. You're being relocated to economy comfort. Move your things," Killian commanded, his shadow looming over her. "I have the boarding pass for 1A, Captain." "I'm not moving," Adelaide replied, her voice a calm, resonant deep navy that didn't waver. Killian's ego flared. He reached down and slammed Adelaide's yellow briefcase shut with a violent crack, the metal latches sparking. Before she could react, Killian grabbed the lapels of her deep navy blazer and physically hauled her out of the seat, forcing her to stand in the narrow aisle. "I am the commander of this vessel. If I say you move, or you'll be spending your layover in a federal holding cell." The justice debt began to accumulate at a staggering rate. Sterling, the purser who wore a bold red-trimmed vest, saw his captain's aggression and decided to join the hunt. Sterling grabbed Adelaide's carry-on bag and threw it down the galley stairs, the impact echoing to the cabin as her white silk belongings scattered across the floor. "The captain gave you an order. Start walking to back, lady." The witnesses in the scene, the other first-class elites, became a unified wall of white and yellow energy. Madeline in a white jumpsuit and Elias in a yellow linen shirt didn't just watch. They stood up, their phones raised like weapons, capturing the physical manhandling of a woman who remained eerily composed. The cabin was a blur of white and yellow recording devices, the silent judgment of the crowd thickening the air. "Killian," Adelaide said, her eyes locked onto his in a chilling stare as he shoved her toward the galley with a heavy hand on her shoulder. "You have exactly 3 minutes to realize that you don't own the sky. You just work for the person who does." "I don't work for people like you. I am the law at 30,000 feet. Killian roared, completely unaware that the plane's ground link was already transmitting his assault directly to the board of directors. The aircraft had just begun its taxi toward the runway, the roar of the engines vibrating through the cabin. Killian was still shouting at Adelaide, completely oblivious to the frantic messages flashing across his cockpit comms. His bold red tie seemed to pulse with his rage, convinced he had asserted his dominance. Suddenly, the intercom crackled to life, not with the pilot's voice, but with deep, authoritative tone. "Captain Killian, this is ground control. You are ordered to return to the gate immediately. I repeat, return to the gate." Killian's face, already bold red, turned a shade of mottled purple. "Ground control, this is Aero Lux 404. We are cleared for takeoff. Confirmed directive." The voice on the intercom, now distinctly deep navy and resolute, bypassed ground control. "Captain Killian, this is Adelaide Vance, CEO of Vance Global Holdings and chairman of the board for Aero Lux Airlines. You just tried to relocate your new boss. Park the plane, Killian. Your career just entered an uncontrolled descent." The entire first-class cabin erupted in gasps. The witnesses in the scene, the white and yellow blur of Madeline and Elias and the other passengers, began cheering, their phones now pointed directly at Killian's stunned face. The cabin crew, including Sterling in his bold red-trimmed vest, froze, their faces drained of color. The true power shift had hit with the force of a sonic boom. The plane returned to the gate, the air stairs rolling into place. Two impeccably dressed individuals in deep navy suits boarded the aircraft. They weren't security. They were Adelaide's personal legal team, carrying a stack of termination papers. "Killian," Adelaide said, her voice cutting through the stunned silence. She walked directly to him, her white silk scarf stark against her deep navy blazer. "You are officially relieved of duty, effective immediately. Your disregard for passenger safety, harassment, and destruction of property, specifically my yellow leather briefcase and white silk garments, constitutes gross misconduct. No severance, no recommendations, and your flight credentials are being flagged globally." Killian's legs gave out. He crumpled to his knees in the aisle, right at Adelaide's feet, reaching out to clutch the hem of her deep navy blazer. "Adelaide, please. My career, my pension. It was a mistake. I didn't know who you were." "Ignorance of who I am doesn't excuse cruelty," Adelaide replied, stepping back so his hands grasped only air. She turned to Sterling, who stood trembling. "Purser Sterling, for your active participation in this assault, you are also terminated. Your actions were recorded, witnessed, and will be on every major news outlet by morning." Under the unforgiving glare of the witnesses, who continued to record every second, the legal team didn't just escort Killian and Sterling off the plane. They physically hoisted Killian by his bold red tie and his belt, half carrying, half dragging him down the aisle and off the aircraft, his uniform disheveled. Sterling followed, his face a mask of shame. As Killian was unceremoniously dropped onto the tarmac, his captain's hat rolled off his head, landing symbolically in a puddle. Adelaide picked up her damaged yellow briefcase and her scattered white silk items. She turned to the remaining passengers. "My apologies for the delay. We will be taking off shortly with a new, professional crew. Your next flight is on Vance Global Holdings." She walked toward the cockpit, a new Deep Navy crew already taking their places. The flight attendants, now chastened, quickly cleaned the aisle. Adelaide had not just grounded a pilot. She had recalibrated an entire airline, ensuring that no passenger would ever again be relocated by arrogance.